Razorfist, tell us more about the 15th anniversary of GoldenEye.
It's the 15th anniversary of GoldenEye. And, yeah.
I thought that was going to be it. I was like, whoa.
I know, all right?
Couch gaming at its best.
Honestly, guys, I think this fucking game, it still rules today. It still holds up. It's just it arguably formed the blueprint for what we know today as FPS multiplayer, with all the positives and negatives that entails. It created so much, and then when you really get into the single player campaign, it's basically got everything that current generation first person shooters are missing.
What, you mean a plot?
Open-endedness, a plot, a halfway decent story,
challenge,
guns that fall outside of the standard 3 stereotypes of sniper rifle, pistol, shotgun. You know what I mean? Like, you've actually got a relative selection, and they're all based on real firearms in real life, but they're all named something different because they didn't want to pay licensing fees.
Don't forget, they also got the golden gun, which was my favorite.
There's not air in there. It was one of the first examples of first-person stealth gameplay. Actually,
I love that aspect of it so much.
It even predates Thief the Dark Project as much as myself and the Sainted Magnus love that game. It's it actually predates it by about a year.
Yep, 1997.
Yeah, amazing game with so much going on. You can play it to this day and still have fun. It also formed the groundwork for Rare's future work with Perfect Dark, the first one.
We don't talk about that other one. It's not real.
That Xbox 360 abomination.
Oh,
not real.
Launch title.
I thought we agreed not to talk about that.
Yeah, let's not. But
happy times.
Great fucking game. I just have so many memories. I thought we would talk about just fucking memories of playing that game and what the impact it's had on the modern industry and what the modern industry could learn from GoldenEye 007 on the N64.
Absolutely fucking everything as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, a great game. I mean, I can remember many times. Good friend of mine, John, way back when we were kids hanging out, he'd play it and I'd watch because I was never very good at it because I just never got good at stealth games, but every once in a while we do the multiplayer, and that's when I first discovered that I hate multi-screen, or split screen.
Oh, yeah. That was the standard complaint was, you're looking at my screen, aren't you?
Yeah,
I remember.
It's on the same goddamn screen. But that was a very special time. In fact, we would often play the game, then we'd take a break to go peep his sister, and then we'd come back to playing as if nothing had ever happened. Those were the days.
Yeah, I have a story about that. My friend, he had this. It was a 32-inch TV. It was like the size of one of those Trinitron Sony TV things.
That was probably epically huge back then.
It was epically huge back then. My friend got the cereal boxes from downstairs ready for recycling, and there were 4 of us playing. He cut them up and made like a grid and stuck it to the front of the TV so that nobody could look at each other's fucking screen.
So no. Wow.
He was obsessed with that sort of thing. And he didn't just do that with GoldenEye, he did it with both the first 2 Time Splitters games when we used to live down the road from each other.
Yeah. You said the problem with Star Fox 64 too. Nintendo 64 split screen. Good stuff. Of course, then the Xbox came around and did the networking thing, which was cool, so you didn't have that problem. But you had to have 4 fucking Xboxes in the same goddamn room.
Yeah.
And usually that would drain all your power bill for that month.
Yeah. Well, just one Xbox can really work over your electricity bill.
I know. Seriously.
But, Alpha Omega Sin, do you have any, distinct GoldenEye memories?
I have too many to even fucking count. GoldenEye, I mean, anybody that grew up and was fortunate enough during the N64 era to either own one, rent one, or know a friend who had it, had one of the most awesome experiences ever because it was fresh at the time. It was new. It wasn't something you really got to experience much outside of, all the very fortunate PC gamers out there who have been doing it for several years prior. But consoles were finally getting that. And the thing is, Razor Fist summed up a lot of stuff about it. It had a fantastic single player campaign. It followed a story for the most part. You know, you got to actually like sneak about and everything. You got to snipe people. You got to shoot people. There was different ways you could go through the stages and complete your missions. You know, it was just it's fucking awesome. So
It is.
yeah,
And there was so
I
many
heart
fucking
it.
there were so many gadgets and so many ways to kill people. Like, you remember with the watch laser? I would actually run around in multiplayer actually shooting people with the fucking watch laser. I mean, this game just had so much to it. It was so freaking cool. There was just 1,000. Like, you remember stacking remote mines on the wall until
Yes.
you had
Yes.
until you had like a sausage link sticking out like 1.5 feet off the wall of just remote mines.
Well, there was some, but just going to the single player a little bit before we start mushing on the multiplayer a bit. One of the missions that sticks out to me, and if you remember in the film when this woman's hacking the computer inside this armored train in the middle of Moscow, and Pierce Brosnan is trying to get through the floor to get out of the train before it blows up. They actually captured that mission so accurately.
They did.
Yeah, because it was like you stood there with your watch laser blasting the fucking locks off, and you're like, "Fucking aim
Yeah,
right," and the
and
thumbstick's so
what's-
fucking jerky. You're like, "Come on, fucking shoot the bloody hole! Come on, shoot the lock, shoot the lock, shoot locks!" And
Yeah,
it was just
what's
things like that.
perhaps most impressive about that whole sequence was there was no objective saying, "Hey, use your watch laser to shoot the." There was no on-screen flashing prompt saying, "Hey, use your watch laser and shoot this." You had to figure it out for yourself, or you had to have seen the movie. Because otherwise, you wouldn't know what you were supposed to do there. There was just like a panel. You didn't even know your watch laser could be used to shoot those things off.
Nope.
Up until that point, it was the first time it had been used. I mean, that's just a perfect example of like games back then. There were fewer expectations for the developer to just grab your hand and say, "Do this, bitch." I really enjoy that aspect of the single player campaign of GoldenEye. There's a lot of wandering around and trial and error, but it's worth it because there's more exploration and you end up being more immersed in the game and having more fun.
Here's one thing I want to talk about because it was a hindrance, but one that I can look back, you know, with fucking fuzzy warm feelings of nostalgia rage. And that's what the fuck is the chick's name in the movie? Natalia?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Xenia or Natalia?
Natalia, because you had the missions where you had to protect her, and was it inside? Damn, I can't remember the stage, but you had to break out of the jail cell, and she's running around, and she'll just run in front of you and just stand there while 4 dudes pile through a door, start shooting, and you're trying to shoot around her and not hit her, and oh man, so many times I just flipped out wanting to fucking punch the TV. I was just like, why are you so fucking stupid? Move! And it was just, oh man, because escort missions weren't like something you did all the time back in the day. But that was one of my earliest memories of just wanting to rip my hair out and headbutt a baby seal or something.
And,
just, why is this occurring? Why is she so dumb? Fucking AI, please work.
There is one thing I have to point out though: the fucking music was fantastic on that game.
It was like a combination of the movie soundtrack and like, but they put it through like the N64 kind of MIDI sound kind of thing, and then they made their own soundtrack along with it, and it's really good and iconic. Like, literally talking about it right now, I can hear it in my head. I know exactly, like, and I'm sure we all yeah.
Dude, you want to know what music I hear the most whenever I think about it? The very first stage, whenever it starts up, that I think of that, and then I think of whenever you go to the start menu, that real somber music that plays when you're going through your menu and all that shit and your items and whatnot.
Yeah.
I remember those songs distinctly.
Oh yeah, that game has a great soundtrack. And am I wrong, or will there be a whole generation of kids that, even though the Pierce Brosnan movies by and large really sucked, will forever see James Bond as Pierce Brosnan just because of this game? Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that game single-handedly made a bunch of kids into James Bond fans who never knew or gave a fuck about any 007 film.
it's true.
Yeah.
I went to see Tomorrow Never Dies in theaters. God, it was terrible. But
God damn it.
but but I went to see it because fucking I'd played the game. What are you gonna do?
You know what's funny is since we're on such a nostalgia trip, it seems, or at least the gaming industry was a few years ago. Would it have been great to see a game actually based on like Diamonds Are Forever?
Or Moonraker.
Yeah, I mean Sean Connery's still alive. Go get him.
Well, they technically had the one Moonraker stage in GoldenEye. So that
Oh well,
kind of
there
counts.
was that. Yeah, but it's not the same.
I know, but I mean, it's something. And at the very least, it was in the best 007 game. And if anybody out there fucking disagrees that there's a better 007 game, you are high as fuck. High as a goddamn kite.
Well, have you not played?
High as a goddamn. The highest fuck you've ever heard of.
Have you not
Yeah.
played GoldenEye Rogue Agents on the DS? That was a fantastic game.
Not better than GoldenEye.
Oh, they fucking ported that bloody version of GoldenEye on every single fucking platform they could get their grubby mitts on. Do you remember that? GoldenEye Rogue Agent.
Oh, there were so many bad games sold because of how good GoldenEye was.
Yes.
Rogue Agent was terrible. I wasn't crazy about Nightfire on the GameCube, or although I will say, The World Is Not Enough for the N64 and PS1, not half bad
No,
actually.
the PS1 one wasn't too bad. I must admit, I did enjoy that one. I never
Yeah,
played
really.
the 64 version though.
Yeah, they're both really good, although they didn't upgrade the graphics at all for the N64 version. You can tell it's a PS1 game, but
Yeah.
it's still a really good game. Follows the story pretty well. Kind of underrated actually. Probably should have been as big as GoldenEye. Arguably, it's really good multiplayer and whatnot. But there were a lot of terrible James Bond games sold on that. And
Oh yes.
from what I
Yes,
hear,
you-
the new Wii GoldenEye is kind of not so good.
Oh,
I've
actually
very
got it.
good.
Yes, and it's actually quite decent.
I was
Oh,
gonna
really?
ask this.
Okay. The gameplay I saw looked really standard FPS to me.
Yeah, I mean, but it does feel like the original.
Well,
It's
that's
some
probably what it was
updates.
going for then.
Oh yeah. So
But
it's
Daniel
it's not a bad
Craig.
game.
But Daniel Craig.
I
come
know, I know, I know, I know. I hate Daniel Craig too.
They
Hey,
could
since,
get their rights to Pierce Brosnan.
With
Yeah,
the
Excuse me.
I was gonna say with the multiplayer being like one of the biggest components of GoldenEye's fucking legacy, what are your favorite stages just to go on to?
The tank level for me.
Oh
After you
man.
just broke out the
favorite
library.
single player or multiplayer?
Multiplayer.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
complex.
complex for everyone. I know.
Complex.
Fucking complex was awesome.
I
I also
thought that was
liked
called the
the-
facility.
Facility
That's right.
was my
No. I like
favorite.
I did actually like the complex too, though. But yeah, I was thinking of the facility. The facility is for everyone. Yeah. But what was the other one where the with the like triple? It was like triple storied, and you were like, was it the archives?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Wait,
But
I
there
was
were a
gonna
lot of-
say, is it the one that it looks kind of like it has like the glass windows and like
Yes.
the little empty rooms?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the complex one, I believe.
Okay.
Or,
it was the
no, that's
complex
archives.
one.
My bad. Wait, is
Okay.
that archives or complex? No, I can't fucking remember.
I think it might be the complex. Man, it's been too long since I played that game.
Yeah,
the
and
one I
I
will
guarantee
say,
somebody's listening right now, and they're like, "No, it's this. Say it's this."
the one,
And then I'll have to
the one-
remind them that we can't hear you.
The one I will say, go to hell for eternity on is the Aztec. I hated that
Oh
mission.
man, you know what I fucking hated was the cheap bastards who'd fucking keep opening and closing the gigantic door. Like you're running around, and all of a sudden you're trying to go through, and you think that you're opening the door, but they're closing. Then all of a sudden you don't realize they're there, and you're like, brr, brr. You're like, oh, you fucking fucks, fuck. No, that game, and it's weird because recently they were talking about that game and something, and they said that the multiplayer was actually not originally intended for it, and
Yeah,
they kind of
they put it in-
secretly put it in there.
They put it in 6 months before the game shipped. I
Which
shit
is
you
saying
not.
something because it had a very long development cycle, very long.
And it was one guy as well. We should probably throw this name out there. Let me look up the article. I think Destructoid wrote it on it, but it was one guy more or less who championed the multiplayer and basically created it almost single-handedly himself over the course of that 6 month span. And he had like just fought and fought and fought to get this fucking thing in the game. Let me
Well,
see
that
if
dude deserves all of our fucking respect because he gave us and millions of other gamers out there
And the millions.
the time, yeah, and millions of other fans out there with some of the best gaming experiences ever, and for future gamers too, who are fortunate enough to go back and relive that awesome fucking game over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one thing I will say about GoldenEye though, that it is one of those games that was literally a system seller because it was a pack-in for the 64 for a while.
Oh yeah, definitely a killer app.
Oh, without question.
I don't
Yeah.
think we would have heard of the N64 without, some of the work that GoldenEye put in.
Oh, and it single-handedly put Rare on the map. I mean, Donkey Kong Country was the shit and everything.
Okay.
GoldenEye is a different beast in all its own because it's, number one, it made first-person shooters something credible on a console. Number two, it made multiplayer fucking very awesome. Number three, it's based off of a movie and it's amazing.
It's
Yeah,
a movie
It's
title
fucking
that doesn't
Which
flow.
never, ever happens.
Yeah,
know.
ever. I still remember going through game magazines and looking at screenshots of it, and the only thing that went through my head, which it's funny to say now, but I remember looking at screenshots and just going, holy shit, that is the most amazing game I've ever seen graphically. I can't believe games are going to look like this with
Yeah,
their
it was-
mitten hands.
It was good looking. It was good looking for the time. It met the visual standards of the day. It was beautiful. By the way, I got to throw that guy's name out there. His name was Steve Ellis, and he literally secretly programmed the multiplayer deathmatch mode into the game.
Well,
So
Steve,
basically-
Steve Ellis, on behalf of the Hate Bit podcast and many listeners out there, fucking thank you, sir. I know you
Yeah.
probably aren't listening to this, but goddammit, I have to say it anyway. Thank you.
Yeah,
He's a true advocate of couch gaming.
seriously. I mean, without that guy, how different would shooters be today?
How different would gaming be?
We won't
I
have time
know.
splitters, I'll tell you.
The entire and that was, by the way, Virtua Cop was a big inspiration for GoldenEye. The way that enemies react to different body parts being shot. We've talked about it on the
Mhm.
show before. It's one of
Yeah.
the laziest things about modern FPS games that when you shoot people in the hand, they don't really react to it anymore.
It's
And
like-
yet you go back to the N64 or Turok, and it's like every single body part gets shot. There's a different reaction. They don't do that anymore because, again,
Yeah.
annual assembly line. They don't. There's no love and passion put into making these games anymore, unfortunately.
Well, also don't forget the new games. GoldenEye. When you shot somebody, it was for a reason. Now it's just shoot, 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 shoot. You don't even see who you shot because you shot them. You move on.
No, there's if you go back and play GoldenEye, especially a single player campaign, there's a lot of walking around through empty rooms.
Mhm.
To get to the next part. There's
Mhm.
there's a lot of shooting gallery sequences too, but
Sure.
there's a surprising amount of just walking around on your own and picking up items and figuring out how to operate a door, things like
Well, that
There's a
plays
lot
into suspense too. That plays
Exactly.
into the whole stealth
Maybe-
aspect.
It made the shooting more fun, and it made
Sure.
it made it more like adrenaline infused, really. When
Yeah.
you get to the end of the facility mission, and all of a sudden all these Russian soldiers bust out of nowhere, and the gas tanks go up, and it was really good game design on a lot of levels.
And
we should also
you could
mention-
hold more than 2 weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we should also mention it was originally intended to be a side scroller. It was not intended to be
Really?
a first. Yeah, they didn't even make the change to that until like a year out from release. So
Wow.
it's just crazy how many things happened. Like they didn't want to make a shooter, and it was. You also have to think there had been attempts for console shooters before, and GoldenEye had a major burden to try and make a good one on a console. And for all intents and
With a
purposes,
movie license, no less.
and a movie license, and it winds up being this massive success. It's just a huge accomplishment and a huge feather in the hat of Rare for all time. Period. I mean, no
And
matter
Rare, we thank you.
yes,